perspective, a sort of a matrix. So as in acknowledging the body's systems as all very interconnected, as opposed to our conventional model that really kind of looks at our body in a siloed approach. And a way of describing how that might make sense to a lot of people is you would think of maybe an issue with blood sugar. That's a hormone issue, so you'd go to an endocrinologist. But blood sugar regulation really affects our vascular system, but then you would go to cardiologist, and the two of them aren't talking together.
Yeah.
So you don't get a chance to really address those things as being connected. In functional medicine, we do. So we see food as medicine and lifestyle as very effective medicine.
Yeah, you kind of talk about that in your bio as I was reading it this morning. Uh, Chronic dis-ease. I've heard dis-ease in the body. Something's going on, and you talk about there's kind of three focus points. You've got the genetics, and then you've got what is it? The environment and the lifestyles. Can you kind of break that down for us? What do you mean by those three?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a paradigm shift because we might notice even with this COVID situation that sometimes when we hear information, especially if it's alarming, we hold on to that information even after it's been disproven.
Hmm.
We have a hesitation to receive the new information because we've been so impacted emotionally. And much in the same way, um, when we think about genetics, there's a story that we have that plays around in our head that it's all in my genes. If my family history has experienced some type of disease process, well, then it's just, you know, just waiting for it to appear. When in actuality, what we've learned through science is that that's really not true. That might be 5% to as much as 15% of the puzzle, but we're aware of epigenetics or what is influencing our genes to express themselves. So now we know really well that we can upregulate the expression of some genes and downregulate others. So even if something's in your family history, you can downregulate the expression of those genes. They don't have to show up. They don't have to be expressed.
Boy, that's extremely good news. Because I know I've heard so many people go, well, my grandmother and my mother had breast cancer, so I'm going to have it. So some people have gone to extremes before a diagnosis. Do you think a lot of that plays in with the mind as well? A little bit of.
Absolutely. Someone that I'm fond of learning from. I have so many mentors and health heroes. One of them is Caroline Leaf, who is known to say thoughts are things and they take up mental real estate.
Yes.
I mean, think about that for a minute. So, what we
Wait,
think
say that again. Mental real estate?
exactly,
Oh, that's a good
thoughts
one.
are things that take up mental real estate. So, our thoughts are creating new um, neural pathways, like think of them as branches in a tree. So those pathways also elicit a whole cascade of responses all throughout our body, including, some things you might want to talk to a cardiologist or an endocrinologist about, right? So our thoughts are very, very powerful and do elicit responses throughout our body through messengers.
Right. Right. You know, listening to you, it's reminding me of what happened to me, and that's why I was so passionate to bring you on. Probably around 2014, 15, I started to, burn up from the inside out. Jean, I ended up, my knuckles felt like they were inflamed. My mouth was so dry I could barely swallow. Uh, I had burning tongue, burning lips. My eyelid would catch where the membrane would rip off, literally. I went to the doctors and they gave me a couple of ideas they thought it could be, but no one could help me out. And I did some research and come to find out I hired a functional nutritionist and we just started ripping the foods out and started very bare bones. And there was such power in that. So much power. I felt my body come back. Why is food so important these days?
Well, I love hearing your story and being empowered. I just love empowering people to have that kind of wisdom about their own bodies. And food is so powerful because it's complex and our bodies are wired and designed to respond to the messages. So in functional medicine, we think of, yes, okay, so food is medicine, food is information, food is connection. And it's so exquisite, the amount of information that is in a whole food, cleanly sourced. And I could go
What do you
into,
mean? What do you mean by cleanly sourced?
so, well, I'm one that used to think the word organic was just a way of stores charging more money. Right? Like organic, what's that? Well, organic means that you're not getting some things with that whole food that are unintended.
Right, right.
And um, then for those, I understand not everyone enjoys eating sourced protein as meat, but for those that are enjoying meat, then it's really important to be clean sourced, grass fed, grass finished, where that animal is living in the environment that it was created to live in and eating the foods that it was created to eat, and not a lot of other things added to it that change the structure and then change the messages that our body's getting when we consume that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Ooh, well, I know the effects it had on me. I began to feel so good, Jean, after the first month that I went 2 more months. And what I mean by that, I ate only vegetables and fruits and limited meats and really kept it clean. No caffeine, which I discovered was part of the burning mouth syndrome. And if I drink or have too much caffeine, even now, I have to watch it. It's such a mindset, though. It's so easy to just grab the processed foods. I've had friends of mine, mothers, say bringing their kids home, a quick bite at McDonald's, run through is a way to give them a snack, and I kind of cringe at that. What do you feel about that for our babies?
Well, I help people discover that those are food like substances. They're not food.
No.
They're not food. And it's, once you pull the veil back and start looking more closely at it, it's kind of horrifying. And a part of the challenge that we have is navigating those systems where um, the foods that are readily available to us, that are in front of us all the time, aren't necessarily the best choices. And that's led to people being led astray, unintentionally doing harm to others or themselves by the foods that they're selecting,
Correct.
unknowing. And that's why we're seeing such high rates of childhood diseases that we used to attribute to only adults.
That's true. The diabetes, the overweightness, the
Mhm.
moving less, it all. plays such a big part. Yeah. You know, what advice could you even give to the mothers who are doing their best a lot of the times? You know, they're doing their best, but what maybe could they reach out? What would you share with them?
I would love to say that a really simple place to start is by one, eliminating sugar. Drink water. Our bodies need to be well hydrated. But then beyond that, shop the circumference of the grocery store and stay away from the middle.
Oh yeah.
Um,
And
I joke,
what do you mean by that? Stay away from the middle.
well, those things that have 5 or more ingredients on the label,
Hmm.
that can be a really quick, easy, you don't have to even read all of those ingredients. If you glance at it and see there's more than 5 ingredients, put it back. Just put it down. And if there are ingredients that you couldn't wrap your tongue around in order to pronounce them, that's a sign that it's not really something your body's going to recognize as food. So, best of all are the foods that don't need a label.
Right. We just
They're,
whole
they are
food.
the ingredient, right?
A strawberry is a strawberry.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's true. That's true. So I've heard about that shopping on the outside and stay away from the center of the grocery store where all those processed foods are. Is that what I'm getting?
Exactly. If it comes from the ground and is a plant, it's great. If it comes from a plant, is in a factory, maybe look at it twice.
Right. Right.
There's an extra level of selection, that process that needs to happen there. So the simpler, the better. And you know, we were taught that it was punishment to be in the kitchen. We need to fall in love with the kitchen again, and teaching children how to cook with us and being together as families around food.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
wonderful
it
celebration.
is. It is. And this is the opportunity. In fact, even going to the grocery store with your child and having them help you out with the planning of a meal with whole foods, you know, the chicken and the vegetables and mixing them together and you know and just giving I don't know, love to our food sources because, you know, the processed foods, yeah, I've heard not much value in them, not much value at all.
Or take them to the farmer's market.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
right. Yeah.
what I'm getting really excited about too is the idea of planting home gardens together. Now, even if it's in pots, you don't need to have a lot of space. Even if it's the herbs, some lettuce. And then when children are involved in growing it, they're a lot more curious about tasting it and eating it.
Right, right. You know, on your bio, you said you had struggled yourself with a health issue. Would you mind sharing that at all, or what happened?
Yeah, I think that, isn't it interesting that the challenging things in life, the places where we struggle, teach us the most and bring resilience and actually end up giving us gifts to offer. It's a little bit of the wounded warrior story, right?
Right.
And my particular story is that I was highly allergic. I was born with eczema, um, struggled with eczema and psoriasis. I was allergic to over 100 different kinds of substances, most of which were foods, but other things too. And spent a lot of time missing school because if I got a cold, that turned into asthma and then into bronchitis and then into pneumonia. So
Mhm.
I know what it is to have a body that isn't really serving you well. I know what it is to feel like you have limitations. And it's helped me to have a really deep appreciation of the freedom that we have when we take charge of health. And it's always therefore made sense to me that food is medicine,
Yes.
because some of those foods would elicit a response in my body. It
Right.
was really clear to me. I experienced it. It made sense
Wow. Wow. Early on.
from the very beginning. From
Mm.
the very beginning, and wonderful mentors, teachers like Gabor Mate helped me to make sense out of how that happened. How could
Yeah.
that come into being? Hmm.
I love that guy, Dr. Gabor Mate. We've talked about him.
Yeah.
I brought him up in other videos with One Heart, a little stream on how trauma has so much to do with so many elements. So I want to go back to this chronic dis-ease. We've got so much of it in our world right now. The fibroid myalgia, the arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis. Oh my gosh, we could go on and on and on. And there's some talks about this latest, you said, pneumonia and all these different diabetes, uh, but the pneumonia scare with the COVID-19, and this can be quite a ripple effect for people and quite scary. And you were saying get rid of sugar right out the gate, correct?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
what can you share here with with our listeners about um, all these chronic diseases that we've got to mend them, and we've got some time. We've got some time on our hands, folks, right now while we're sitting at home, to kind of readjust and think about what we're putting in our bodies. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. I've heard this time frame being called an opportunity for reset, and
Ooh,
I like that. Sort of like when electronics break down, sometimes we turn it off. We press the pause. And then when we reboot, we get to be selective about which things we bring online. So I see this as a time to really think about what we're experiencing during this time and what we want to bring back online
oh yeah.
when we return to life as usual or the new normal. And some of what we might want to be thinking about is really how to serve our body better.
Ooh, that's good.
With the sugar, that's an obvious one because it suppresses our immune system and increases inflammation in our body.
Yes.
So what people can tend to start to believe is that their body is broken or that their body's turned against them, which you might have been tempted to think when you found that you were sensitive to so many foods. But in actuality, what's happened is that our body is fighting really, really hard to serve us and serve us well. And those are just symptoms. The symptoms are a way of our body talking to us and sort of throwing up a red flag and saying, wait, 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 something's out of balance. Pay attention, pay attention. That's
Right.
all that is. It's feedback. So with moving into the future, it's, how do we want to position ourselves to strengthen our immune system, to become more resilient? Because here's the truth, since the beginning of time, all of humanity has been exposed to different kinds of bacteria and viruses, and we will be. We will continue to be. And it's a part of the normal education for our immune system.
Right.
We we need that exposure. We want that exposure. We want to educate our immune systems, and we also want to build a very resilient immune system. That takes some nutrition. That takes some paying attention to lifestyle practices of really obvious things like getting enough sleep and having a
Yeah.
stress reduction practice. What do you do that relieves stress for you might be different than for someone else. I like to invite people to think of flow moments, and that could be described as what activity do you do that you suddenly look at the time and think, oh my, where did all the time go? something that draws you in, that maybe has an element of problem solving or creative aspect to it. And that can look so different for, there's just a wide variety. I know for me that can be painting, or that can be gardening. And for others, it could be walking in the woods. It could be doing puzzles. We see a lot of people doing jigsaw puzzles right now. There's problem solving, it's creative. Um, so whatever, pay attention to what draws you in. And it can be very centering.
Right.
That can be something that can be a stress relieving activity. And of course, being outside, being in the sun,
I heard,
upregulating that vitamin D, which is really sort of like a pro hormone. It's an ingredient that creates hormones in our body that really are very, very protective of our cellular membranes. We want to have really robust levels of vitamin D. Free sunshine, right?
bring it on, bring it
Yeah,
on. I know. Don't sunburn yourself, but bring it on. Yeah.
yeah.
I
And
heard a lot of us living in California think that we get the best part of the sun, but we're not as close to the equator as we think. So, and then you can wash it off. So if you're gardening and you got all this sun and you want to go inside and take a shower, and clean up, you've washed it all off. That was incredible to me. I just thought I didn't even know how vitamin D, but how our body absorbs nutrients.
yeah, yeah.
Nutrients.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, I say to my clients sometimes, bits and parts. That's all you need the soap for, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The
You
bits of,
don't have to soap your whole body, because soap is a surfactant. It's taking away natural oils. You're washing off that wonderful vitamin D. You actually are.
yeah.
Let it
I,
soak in.
yeah. Well, I want to get down to now what you have a business along with your husband who is a doctor, correct? Um, and can you just share a moment about what he does? He's right here in our own backyard. I guess you guys are in Avila with his.
Yeah, we opened a practice in Avila and have shared a functional medicine practice for some time. And he is evolving into doing even more regenerative medicine. So helping people to heal their joints and connective tissues where they might be having pain that restricts their movement and is limiting the things that they would like to do and the way they show up in the world. He's able to use their body's own healing mechanisms
I love that.
to really support restoration of those tissues that powerfully uh, either remove pain altogether or dramatically reduce pain and get people back out golfing and playing tennis and playing on the ground with their grandkids and out volunteering, doing the things that they love to do.
What we should be doing, living life 100% if possible, right?
Absolutely. I have such a deep knowing about the unique brilliance of each one of us and how much richer, more beautiful the world is when we each can really show up fully and offer our gifts to the world.
Oh, I'm with you, sister. I'm with you. I'm with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Oh, that's one of my objectives to doing this and giving this information out because I know it's helped me. So, in your line of work, before we end, and I just so appreciate you doing this with me, I wanted to ask you if somebody was interested in what you do. Of course, I will put your website and your email address so they can get a hold of you. Um, what kinds of things are you offering to those that might be curious? Who would best you serve from what achiness in their knuckles like I had, or um, I don't know. What
So the kinds of people that I've treated or partnered with in their own treatment, um, And really, we're all our own best doctor. We need to really learn how to listen to ourselves, and that's a part of the process that we do together. It's a very wide gamut. So some would be those that are of childbearing age and they're wanting to become pregnant, and they know that there's some imbalance in hormones. And others might be very far down a journey of still trying to discover what is it. It hasn't been given a name yet, and they've had a lot of frustrated attempts at discovering it. And yet others that have been very long down a path of what would be considered um, autoimmune disease. And there's 85 different labels, types of autoimmune disease that can be very connected. So, a really broad range. But Jolyn, what I've discovered and I'm doing with the Jean Jones Wellness is virtual, and that is taking the base layer and really bringing people in alignment with knowing their bodies. What I found is that over 90% of the people that we've been helping together have as some of their chief concerns weight loss,
Oh, yes.
energy,
Right.
and mental focus.
Oh, that's a big
So,
one.
yeah.
Yes.
So, in a program that I am offering virtually, I'm able to address those issues in a 10-week program. And I've been looking for a way to be able to have a broader reach and help people in a more affordable way.
Yeah. Yes.
And yet also have the opportunity to help them when there's more testing that's needed after removing kind of that first base layer, addressing that first. Yeah.
Right. And you personalize it, obviously, so to each person.
Absolutely. I say that we're all an experiment of one.
Yes. Yes. Because I'm a musician, I do believe in we are made of energy.
Yeah.
And if the energy is out of sync, there's a variety of ways of healing that energy, but we've long ago forgotten. We've been advertised to about on TV of what to eat and what to do, and it catches up. And agree with you 100%, Jean. The highest number of people getting sick is near or before Christmas time because of two things: more sugar because we're eating more cookies in Christmas time, and stress that goes with the holidays. That is the two things that'll just take you down. And it
Yeah.
sounds like that's what you referenced. Going back to reduce your sugars is a good start. And looking at that stress level, I know we don't have our jobs right now, but we certainly do have complications at home with children and running around. And
Absolutely. So I like to focus on all the things that we do have in our control. And, if you're looking at the genetic story, and that's 85% of what we have in control. 85% at least.
yeah,
And some would say 95%. So that's a big number that we get to work with,
yeah,
to be able to um, take charge, take back control, and be empowered. So I enjoy just giving people new tools to work with and helping them to discover the best path that fits who they are at this time in their life. I so appreciate what you're doing, Jolyn,
mm,
in
thank you.
bringing collaboration together. Um, and enjoyed your interview with Carrie Assumption too, that has a lot of tools in her toolbox as well. I've had a privilege of getting to work directly with her and experience the benefit of some of those tools. So I just thank you for bringing this group of healers together.
Yes. And I just so appreciate you joining. I thought of you immediately as one of my interviewees, and I was glad to bring you on board because I know personally that hiring someone way back and getting myself back on track did miracles in my life. I really thought I was in the mindset that I'm getting old, and getting old means that I'm going to be crippled, but that's not true.
That's a terrible lie that's been perpetuated.
That's
No, as
true.
long as we have breath and we have life, our body is wired for regeneration, renewal. It might happen a little slower, but it will happen at any age. I've seen it, I know it, I can't unlearn what I already know. Um,
Beautiful, beautiful. Well,
it's
you're
never too late.
you're
Don't buy
such a
that lie.
well, you're such a delight, and you have such a calming effect too. And I think people will appreciate that. So I want to let you know that that's what you resonate. And I highly recommend to my guests out there, if you're listening, Jean Jones. I will link her in the bottom when I repost this on Facebook. I hope you'll check out her website, give her a call. Maybe she can work out some kind of a payment plan. It's all for the service of getting, what did you say? Restart, it's a reboot.
Yeah, I like the word reboot.
Yeah, rebooting
There's-
right now before we go back into the stuff that we did before. And
yeah,
the good news, y'all, is that we have our healers right here, our own healers in 805 area code. I'm going to be bringing some more guests on for you that I know. Please stay with me. We'll be back this week with someone else for you. Jean, thank you so much for joining us today. And
it's an
I
honor.
hope people, I hope people will give you a holler if they say that here in our neck of the woods. You all be well out there. Take care. Peace. Love to you all. This is Jolynn from One Heart. Thank you again, Jean.
Thanks, Jolene.
Bye bye.
Bye.
We're off, Jean.